We're digging into the landmark ruling against commissions and the National Association of Realtors in a 4-part series. Today, it's part 1, why this happened and how it's good for consumers. Real estate expert Rick Sadle with Keller Williams Realty and SadleRealEstate.com is with us. Rick, good morning.
Hey, good morning.
So let's start with these real estate commissions now going to be upfront for buyers and transparent. So why could this be good for home buyers and sellers?
Well, I think to answer that, we need to talk about what the suit was about. And while it's not official yet, there's been a proposed settlement that hopefully will be approved by the judge. The lawsuit was about 2 things. Sellers sued because they thought the buyer should have to pay their own agent and negotiate their own commission. The contention was that the current system was keeping commissions artificially high because the seller negotiated total commissions with the listing agent, then the listing agent decided what to offer the buyer's agent. It wasn't letting the free market kind of do its thing. The other thing was transparency. Since the buyer was paying the commission in the form of the sales price, right? They would pay their money, and the seller would take some of that money and pay it back to the buyer's agent. The contention was it wasn't clear that the buyers were paying it. So to the consumer, it might appear the buyer's commission was free. So the proposed settlement attempts to address those 2 things.
Okay, so in order to take advantage of having a buyer's agent on the open market, what can a potential buyer do to make sure they do have the cash up front and get a good agent and ultimately a good deal?
Well, I mean, as you referenced, they're going to need to plan on paying for their own representation. And that can mean coming up with a little more money than they would have in the past. So they should save up a little more money. Obviously, if they were to try and buy their own in a complicated process and negotiate against a seasoned pro, it could end up costing them more than that representation. So the good news is, though, oftentimes the seller can and will still help pay for that representation out of the proceeds of the sale. The buyer just has to nowadays include that as a provision of their offer.
Okay, so that is a potential good thing. And transparency, generally speaking, is good in any major financial transaction. So once everything settles down here, Rick, is it possible that half of that 6% commission, like 3% of the home prices, be lopped off the top and someday soon benefit buyers?
Well, I'm not allowed to talk about specific percentages because that could be perceived as price fixing, but I can talk about money in general. But unfortunately, despite all the predictions, I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think that sellers are just going to automatically drop their price by however much they were paying their buyer's agents. In fact, my guess is for a while, buyers are going to be paying it twice, both in the forms of paying for their own representation, along with still paying the same prices they have for a while, at least until it all kind of rolls through the process, right? And currently all comparable sales and appraisals are already going to have that DAC baked in. So that's what sellers are going to ask for their homes.
And we will talk about that next week in part 2 of our 4-part series on this landmark decision. Excellent content and perspective, Rick. Thank you very, very much.
Yeah, thanks.
That's Rick Sadle, real estate expert with Keller Williams Realty and SadleRealEstate.com.